All right, just imagine for a second you're in a trench. You're not just facing down bullets and shells, but a roaring wall of liquid fire coming right at you. That was the reality of the flamethrower, truly one of the most terrifying weapons ever created.
But here's the thing. It was never just about the physical destruction. This was a tool of pure psychological warfare. So in this explainer, we're going to trace its invention, its absolutely terrifying use in battle, and what's really fascinating, its surprisingly complex legacy.
So our story kicks off in the brutal, mud-caked trenches of the First World War. I mean, this was a conflict that just demanded new and frankly horrifying ways to fight.
You see, World War I very quickly bogged down into this brutal war of attrition. You had miles and miles of trenches creating a total defensive stalemate. Soldiers were just getting mowed down in droves trying to cross no man's land. So yeah, commanders on all sides were absolutely desperate for any weapon that could finally break that deadlock.
And it was the German army that first answered that call. Now, at first, they kind of saw these new portable flamethrowers as just siege equipment, you know? But this one guy, a former fire chief named Bernhard Redemann, he had a totally different idea. He argued that the weapon's real power wasn't just burning stuff. It was creating what he called a shock effect to completely shatter enemy morale during an assault.
And that is exactly what he meant by the shock effect. It's literally about weaponizing fear itself. Think about it. The sight of a wall of fire rushing towards you. It was designed to cause so much panic that it would break a defensive line before the main infantry even got there. It was, quite simply, terror made into a weapon.
Okay, so let's jump forward to the Second World War, where this technology really evolved. But here's the catch. As the weapon got more and more effective, the burden and the sheer risk for the soldier actually carrying it grew immensely.
A great example is the iconic American M2-2 flamethrower. It had two main parts, a super heavy backpack unit with the fuel and pressure tanks, and then the separate firing wand, which they called the gun group. I mean, this thing was a cumbersome and incredibly dangerous piece of kit to haul around. And you better believe, firing one wasn't a simple case of point and shoot. No way. It was this high-stakes, multi-person procedure. It demanded intense training, mandatory pre-firing safety checks, and a whole coordinated team just to operate it safely. The operator was just one piece of a small, highly trained unit where a single wrong move could be catastrophic for absolutely everyone involved.
This quote just perfectly captures the inherent danger. One wrong move with this thing and I can lose a toe or maybe my whole foot in just a few seconds. And what's so interesting is that this doesn't come from a soldier. It's from a modern biologist using a similar device. It's a powerful reminder that the raw power and risk, that's just part of the technology itself, no matter what you're using it for.
Well, the sheer horror of a weapon like this inevitably raises some profound ethical questions, right? And that brings us to a really crucial point. Where do you draw the moral line in warfare? So let's just ask the question directly. Based on international humanitarian law, is using a flamethrower actually a war crime? Well, the answer, it's complicated. Basically, international law has to weigh two things. On the one hand, you can't deny its military utility. It is brutally effective at clearing out bunkers and fortified positions. But, on the other hand, it's pretty much designed to cause what the law calls superfluous injury and unnecessary suffering. The burns it inflicts are just horrific, and they go way beyond what's needed to simply take a soldier out of the fight. There's that famous line from the movie Saving Private Ryan, "Don't shoot, let 'em burn." It just perfectly captures the unique moral horror of this weapon. That moment forces you to confront the idea that it's the suffering inflicted by the flamethrower that makes it so different and so deeply, deeply unsettling.
But you know what? The story doesn't actually end on the battlefield. After it fell out of favor with most militaries, the flamethrower found a second life, and it was in a place that I guarantee no one could have predicted.
So as military use went down, these devices started ending up in surplus. But the core technology, right, the ability to project a controlled flame, well, it was soon adapted for a completely peaceful and, believe it or not, an environmental purpose.
Yeah, meet the flame weeder. Its modern use is just fascinating. Biologists and conservationists use these things to control invasive plants. It's a really precise, chemical-free alternative to harsh herbicides. And here's the cool part. The goal isn't to just burn the weeds to a crisp. It's to simply heat them up enough to destroy their cell walls. You're basically cooking them from the inside out. So on the one hand, you have this image burned into your mind, right? The flamethrower as a weapon of total war, a tool designed for nothing but maximum destruction and terror. And then you have this quote. It's more like she's cooking a few unwanted weeds to a pulp. It's the exact same fundamental technology, but it's been repurposed not to destroy, but to cultivate. I mean, that contrast is just incredible. The whole purpose has been completely flipped on its head. And that's how you get this incredible journey. A device transforms from one of the most feared weapons on the battlefield into a precise tool for ecological restoration.
And all of this really leaves us with one final big thought. The flamethrower's story isn't just about a weapon, it's about technology, period. It proves that a tool's purpose, whether it's for creation or destruction, it isn't built into the device itself. It's all about the hands that decide to wield it.